Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone.
If you are in a relationship where you no longer feel any strong sexual attraction to the other person, if you're in a relationship where sex with the other person has become an obligation, a chore, something you aim to avoid if possible, if you're in a relationship where you are always pretending to be turned on, if you're in a relationship where you always have to fantasize only about some other person in order to have orgasm, and I want to say that fantasizing about other persons we're attracted to during sex with someone special is common and normal. But if you have to fantasize only about other persons while you have sex with this special one, and this happens over and over, if you're in a relationship where you guess your partner is also always fantasizing about only someone else during sex with you, if you're in a relationship where you both are afraid to admit you both are no longer in love with each other, if you ever were in love, I urge you, I encourage you, dare to speak your truth from your heart to this other person. Eventually, both of you may become much better friends than you ever were. You both may come to enjoy telling each other who turns you on, what turns you on in sex. Most of us yearn for passionate sex with one or more persons who turn us on and whom we turn on. And sadly, millions and millions of people, past and present, never have that their whole lives, no matter how much they want it. And I know my mother yearned for, and she was capable of, strong romantic passion. I know that. But she did not feel that for my dad. So, in the evenings, she ate junk food, night after night, as a slow poison substitute for the hot romantic sex and connection she wanted, she needed, before she went to sleep. Sadly, my dear mother dug her own grave very slowly with her mouth, eating the ice cream, the cake, the cookies, the candy. A woman wrote, "I'm a woman 25 and was afraid to be openly affectionate toward my sister. She was 26. I wanted to hug and kiss her many times. She was the sweetest person, true friend in every way. But I never let her know how I felt. Instead, I substituted my real feelings by buying her gifts. She was not a woman of means, had only her love to give me, and she gave it in abundance. I recall hugging her only at Christmas because I had an excuse. Christmas traditionally is a season for showing appreciation and friendship. And this woman writes, on February 25th, my sister died. My world has collapsed. How sad that she never knew how much I loved her. What a tragedy that I foolishly deprived both my sister and myself of so much pleasure. When there is love among family members in the name of heaven, show it. Don't put it off until later. It may be too late. From a woman in Aurora, Colorado. Between 1973 and 2024, 51 years, 1,227 soldiers in Israel committed suicides. 1,227 soldiers in Israel committed suicide. Many, if not all of those soldiers in Israel were suffering severe guilt for murdering Palestinian kids, women, men. In the United States, an average of 16 veterans commit suicide every day. 16 veterans commit suicide every day in the United States. Many U.S. veterans suffer hell inside for murdering other human beings in U.S. wars. Many U.S. veterans do not tell their families their bloody memories of combat. They know their families could never fully understand the hell of war. They know their families could never fully understand how, as soldiers, they murdered babies and grandpas and grandmas. Black activist Malcolm X said, "The worst crime whites have committed toward blacks is teaching us to hate ourselves for being black." For years, I bought garlic and other produce from my friends Mary and Elias, who were farmers in the South Valley. And some years ago, Mary died of cancer. Mary's daughter told me recently her mother drank cases of Dr. Pepper sodas. Mary drank cases of Dr. Pepper sodas. And her daughter tried to warn Mary to stop drinking cases of Dr. Pepper. Sadly, Mary was severely addicted to Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper and all sodas and other sugar shit cause cancer. Some people say when someone dies, God took him or God took her. If someone drives drunk or sleepy, as sadly I did, for years, many times I drove sleepy, which is even more dangerous sometimes than driving drunk. If someone jumps off a tall building, they cause their own early death. If someone eats meat, dairy, junk food, cooked food, McDonald's, and sugar shit, and gets cancer or heart attack, they cause their own early death. If someone refuses to stop smoking and boozing, if someone refuses to exercise, they cause their own early death. Never use God as a cop-out to avoid changing our stupid ways. If I had crashed when I was sleepy, driving, God did not make me crash and die. It would have been my own tragic mistake. Why do I walk miles on many days? Why do I eat only healthy, raw, living plant foods plus bee pollen? I work to prevent getting sick. I hate pain. I hate surgery. I hate needles. And I saw both my mother and my father suffer terribly for many years before they died. I work to feel good, to look good, to think clearly while I'm alive, I hope. We never know for sure. Life is hard enough when we're healthy. I know how attracted I am to certain lean, dark, healthy men, so I work to stay lean, healthy, and well tanned. Some of my favorite songs. Now, I don't believe or agree with some of the words in these songs, but I love the music. I love the deep feelings of these songs. Voltaire, Voltaire, Danny Boy, Live Every Day, De Colores, Stand By Me, Pugna de Tierra, Neon Moon, Save the Last Dance for Me. Some of my favorite songs. Someday We'll Be Together, Blue Bayou. Before the next teardrop falls, Are You Lonesome Tonight? Love Me Tender, The Lights of Albuquerque, I Will Survive, I Love the Nightlife, In the Ghetto, It's Now or Never, Crazy, Precious Lord, Take My Hand, Amazing Grace, Help Me Make It Through the Night, Suspicious Minds, The City of New Orleans, If I Can Dream, He Was a Friend of Mine, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Lean on Me. Some of my favorite songs. I don't believe or agree with some of the words in those songs, but I love the music. And I love the deep feelings, and I love to dance to that music. Many, many years ago, I was drunk on religion and the Bible, and I apologize for addicting people to religion. I was very sincere, but I was sincerely wrong. Deeply questioning whatever the religion from our childhood, whatever the religion, not just Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, whatever. Deeply questioning whatever the religion from our childhood can open the door to question many other things, like our government's evil actions right now all over the world, the brutal, bloody, racist U.S. history, modern medicine, certain sexual taboos, white supremacy, deeply questioning whatever the religion from our childhood can open the door to questioning all of these things. Racial injustices, why people want much more money and stuff than they need, how the American dream is a nightmare disaster for all human life, all plant life, all animal life on earth. Why do many men hate and fear homosexuality? Many reasons. For some, a hatred for sex and romance between males is drilled into them from early childhood. Many 10 or 12 or 14-year-old boys would rather be called a liar, a fool, a thief, stupid, lazy, son of a bitch, than to be called faggot or hoto. Why do many men hate and fear homosexuality? Sadly, many men are afraid to admit their attraction to men, especially if they also strongly love their wives, their girlfriends. They fear losing sex and romance with the women they love if those women find out their attraction also for certain men. Why do many men hate and fear homosexuality? Some men suffered abuse as kids from men who forced sex upon them when they did not want it. Some men as adults suffered pestering and pressure for sex from men who refused to take no for an answer. Why do many men hate and fear homosexuality? Some straight men are jealous of gays and bisexuals' easier access to sex partners because many men were taught you're more of a man if you are a stud. Many women, sadly, were taught they were sluts, less of a woman, if they have sex with many men. And some straight men envy men having sex with men because men having sex with men do not make unwanted babies. The number one cause of death in New Mexico for youth is guns. Most deaths by guns in the United States are suicides. I hate guns. I've never owned one, and I never plan to own a gun. Our bodies have about 60,000 miles of blood vessels. I never learned that in school, did you? And I would never guess that. 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our bodies. And most of our blood vessels are thinner than a human hair. And the further from our heart, the smaller our arteries and veins become. They are smallest in our legs and feet. So no wonder that too much sitting on our ass with our legs hanging down is as deadly as smoking cigarettes. We need to walk and exercise every day if we're able. No lowrider car, no computer, no video games are as wonderful as a healthy, lean body. The United States has 574 Native American tribes. 574 Native American tribes officially recognized by the U.S. government. Years ago, I would have never guessed there were that many. 574 Native American tribes. Gaining even 11 pounds of weight can eventually cause our knees to go bad. Not overnight, not in a week, not in a month, not in a year, but after many years. And can make surgeries to replace our knees much more likely. Osteoarthritis develops when the cartilage that acts as a cushion between bones in a joint breaks down, wears away. Then the bones in the joint rub together, causing pain, pain, pain. Listening to or singing songs can help people with dementia to feel better, to behave better. What kind of music does your loved one with dementia enjoy? Ask friends, ask family to suggest songs for that loved one with dementia. And play music that has no commercials. Turn off the television, shut the door, no other noise when playing the favorite music. Not too loud, not too soft, for your loved ones with dementia. I have no desire for most of the stuff sold in shopping malls, and I would be ashamed as hell to own and live in a large mansion. I live in one sunny room. I've lived there over 14 years, one sunny rented room in the house of a friend. 9.5 by 12 feet, 114 square feet, with 6 windows. Other than my Illinois farm home where I grew up, this small room now is my favorite place I've ever lived in my 78 years. I would not keep any car if given to me free, and if I were paid to drive it. I've owned no car. I've owned no car for 45 years. I mostly ride city buses and walk. Sometimes I ride in friends' cars. Another woman wrote, and she's from Indianapolis, Indiana. Last night, my husband and I were having a late night talk when the conversation shifted, and I asked him if his parents had ever told him that they loved him. She says, we've been married several years, and I've never heard either one of his parents tell him they love him. I didn't realize what an old wound I had opened until he told me that every once in a while his mother tells him that she loves him, but his father never has. Tears welled in my eyes, this woman says, and I sensed the hurt in his voice. He told me that once when he was a teenager, he tried to tell his father that he loved him, but his father made a joke of it and changed the subject. And this woman says, I know how he feels. My father died when I was 20, and even though I had told him I loved him, I only heard him say it to me once. I was miles and miles away from home at the time, and he said it over the telephone. I've treasured that memory for the past 16 years. I hoped he'd say it again, but he never did. That one time, however, will sustain me forever. And this woman says, I'm pleading, tell a son daughter, mother, father, relative, friend, anyone who is loved, that he or she is loved. A longtime member of Alcoholics Anonymous said, he drank for happiness and he became unhappy. He drank for joy, but he became miserable. He drank for sociability. He became argumentative. He drank for sophistication. He became obnoxious. He drank for friendship. He made enemies. He drank for sleep. Woke up tired. He drank for strength. Felt weak. I drank for relaxation. Got the shakes. He drank for courage and became afraid. He drank for confidence and became doubtful. He drank to make conversation easier, and he slurred his speech. He drank to feel heavenly. He ended up feeling like hell. From a longtime member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Every day in my blended smoothies, I eat many healing herbs. And garlic is number one. Never cook garlic. Raw garlic is great to fight off all bad germs. Because antibiotic drugs often kill the good germs along with the bad germs. And we need the good germs to be healthy in our intestines. Garlic kills only the bad germs. Garlic helps the good critters in our intestines. And garlic helps arthritis, high and low blood pressure, flu, colds, congestion, earache, cough. Garlic helps diabetes, gangrene, hepatitis, herpes. Garlic helps all infections, AIDS, tuberculosis, COVID, heart disease, pneumonia, insomnia, to give us good sleep. Garlic prevents and gets rid of parasites and worms in our bodies. People who eat the most garlic have the least cancer. Garlic is good for sex. If your partner eats garlic also, no problem with the odor. And isn't it crazy how people will put up with cigarette smoke and the chemical odor of inside new cars and carpets and so on, but freak out with something natural and healthy and beneficial, garlic. Eat only raw garlic. Never cook it if you want the best results. Each garlic bulb has sections called cloves, depending some on the size of the clove. I eat 4 to 6 cloves of garlic in my blended smoothies every day. Lots of raw garlic plus extra hot chili pepper becomes nature's penicillin to fight off bad germs. Sadly, racism and white supremacy saturate this culture. Why is angel's food cake white? Why is devil's food cake dark? When I was a boy, why were flesh color crayons pinkish white? Why was the saying free, white, and 21? Damn racism, white supremacy. And life has many cages we can get trapped in. Many cages. The religion cage, the mainstream medicine cage, the marriage cage, the skin color cage. Life has many cages we can get trapped in. The nation cage, the always wanting more money, more stuff cage. And we do not need to stay trapped in any cage. There's much more to life than any cage. Gangs come in many flavors. When will we see and feel all the world's people are our family? I strongly compliment African American U.S. Representative John Lewis. He refused to go murder people in Vietnam. And he was the first black man in the history of the state of Alabama to be classified as a conscientious objector, a person opposed to war, a person refusing to become a U.S. soldier to murder other human beings. And in his struggle for the civil rights of black people in this nation, John Lewis was arrested more than 40 times. But John Lewis never struck back when he was assaulted. Lewis remembers that Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Love the hell out of them. Love the hell out of them." So if there's meanness and anger and hatred in them, we've got to love it out. I also strongly compliment African American activist James Lawson, and he, like John Lewis, was a conscientious objector to war, opposed to war, refusing to become a U.S. soldier. James Lawson spent 14 months in jail for his refusal to become a professional hired killer in the U.S. military in Korea, years before John Lewis. And when African American activist James Lawson said this, very powerful. When a person is cursing you to your face, even as he is spitting on you, or pushing a lit cigarette into your neck, or beating you with a truncheon, if you can understand and feel, even in the midst of those critical and often physically painful moments, that your attacker is as much a victim as you are, that he is a victim of the forces that have shaped and fed his anger and his fury, then you are well on your way to the non-violent life. Many years ago, a gay friend visited me on our farm in Illinois. He wanted to have sex with me. He tried so hard to please me sexually, to turn me on. But I was not attracted to him sexually. I hope I always remember that experience with that friend, so I do not pester or pressure any friend for sex if he is not attracted to me sexually. To feel pressured by a friend to have sex if I'm not turned on by him does not feel good. The universe is far larger than any of us can imagine. Most of space in the universe is very cold, very lonely, very dark, except for the tiny points of light from millions of distant stars. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. Not 186,000 miles per hour. Not even 186,000 miles per minute. 186,000 miles per second is 3,600 times 186,000 miles per hour. Our sun is a medium-sized star, 93 million miles from Earth. And the sunshine we see left that sun 8 minutes before we see it. The light from some distant stars left those stars thousands or millions of years ago, traveling at 186,000 miles per second. So except for our sun, which is the closest star to us, the next closest star is 4 light years away. The light takes 4 years to reach us from that next closest star. So just pretend if all the stars, except for our sun, suddenly disappeared. Just pretend. And we would not know it for at least 4 years, and for most stars for hundreds or thousands or millions of years. And when we look at the stars in the night sky, we see the past. We see history, even if we think we see now. Very humbling for us on our tiny speck, our Mother Earth. Pretend a ball could circle the earth just high enough not to hit any buildings or mountains. If that ball could travel at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, the ball could circle the earth almost 26,000 miles around the earth, about 7 times in 1 second. Not 1 minute, not 1 hour, about 7 times in 1 second. And many stars have planets, but we know for sure of no other planet in the universe that has life like our Mother Earth. And the worst place on earth for us to live is far better than the best place on any of our sun's other planets. Earth is our only home. Face it. Why trash it? And even though we don't feel it, we're traveling very fast through space. The earth is turning, causing night and day. The earth is going around the sun once a year. The earth is traveling with our sun and other planets in our galaxy of stars. And our galaxy is moving through the universe. Why trash our only home, our precious Mother Earth? The climate crisis threatens life as we know it for plants, animals, and us, human beings. And people living in huge, clean mansions, people driving or flying thousands of miles on business or vacation, are trashing our Mother Earth far more than homeless people with heaps of trash and shopping carts. Native American Tim Giago wrote, "On crystal clear nights, when winter winds whistle over the hills and through the gullies at Wounded Knee Creek, the Lakota Sioux elders would say it is cold enough to hear the twigs snapping in the frigid night air. They called this time of year the moon of the popping trees. It was the stillness of such a freezing morning, December 29th, 1890, that was shattered by the blast of a single rifle. There was a pause, and then utter madness and chaos ensued as the machine guns mounted on either side of the valley, overlooking the Sioux encampment at Wounded Knee in South Dakota, exploded into action. And fighting back with bare hands, the unarmed Lakota Sioux warriors shouted to their wives, to their children, to run for cover. And elderly men, unable to fight back, stood defiantly singing their death songs as they were felled in the hail of bullets. The exact number of Indians killed by the 500 soldiers of the 7th Cavalry, George Armstrong Custer's old outfit, might never be known. A mass grave dug on a hillside overlooking the massacre holds the bodies of 150 men, women, and children, and many other victims left for 2 or 3 days in the open air of that freezing winter died of their wounds and of exposure. The Lakota elders say that only 50 of the original 350 encamped at Wounded Knee survived the massacre. In the history books written by whites, this terrible day was called the Battle of Wounded Knee. It was no battle, it was a massacre. And 5 days after the massacre, an editorial in the Aberdeen, South Dakota Saturday Pioneer newspaper spoke to the fears of the white settlers. It read, "The Pioneer has before declared," the Pioneer being the newspaper, "has before declared that our only safety depends on the total extermination of the Indians, total mass murder of people who live there. Having wronged them for centuries," this newspaper said, "we had better, in order to protect our civilization," followed up by one more wrong, "and wipe these untamed and untamable creatures from the face of the earth." Horrible, evil to the max. Talk about Hitler and Stalin. As the soldiers spread out across the reservation looking for survivors, they stopped at the school playgrounds at Holy Rosary Indian Mission. Sophie, Shell, woman Abeta, and the other students were forced to feed and to water the sweating horses of the cavalry that had murdered their Indian people. And this woman later recalled that many of the soldiers were laughing, joking about their great victory. And I wonder if many of them, years later, were filled with guilt, if their consciences came alive, if any of those soldiers committed suicide. 20 of the soldiers were awarded this nation's highest award, the Congressional Medal of Honor, for their mass murders that day. And the church, where many of the dying and the wounded Lakota Native Americans were taken on that day in 1890, had a banner tacked to the wall that read, "Peace on earth goodwill to men. What despicable religious bullshit. Some years ago, 14-year-old Paul in Rio Rancho shot his buddy, Billy, in the back, killed him. Paul had never been in trouble at school. Paul was not in a street gang. Paul did not smoke cigarettes. He did not drink booze. Paul was gentle, smart, fun-loving, but at 14, he killed his buddy. I damn having guns in homes. If anyone had told Paul's parents several weeks before this tragedy that their son would use their gun to kill his buddy, how would they have believed it? If Paul's parents had not had a gun in their home, Billy would probably be alive today, and Paul would not be living with the hellish memory of having killed his friend. If you have a gun, get rid of the damn thing. You have to experience the hell these families and many thousands of other families have gone through before you wake up. Do you realize any one of us could have been Paul, the 14-year-old who killed his friend Billy? Any one of us could have been Billy. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor was an evil act of war, but no more evil than what the U.S. has done dozens of times all over the world. At that time, the United States had demanded that Japan allow the United States to trade with and exploit other nations in Asia. But the United States refused to accept Japan trading with and exploiting nations in Latin America. Why don't U.S. politicians and news media tell us how the U.S. got a military base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in the first place? The U.S. stole Hawaii at gunpoint. The American Sanford Dole, the filthy rich Dole pineapple man, proclaimed himself president of Hawaii in 1894. Democracy? Hell no. Human rights? Hell no. He proclaimed himself president of Hawaii. Freedom, democracy, human rights for the native Hawaiians? Hell no. The U.S. military claims and brainwashes their soldiers, we're fighting for freedom. So why do U.S. soldiers have so little freedom to oppose major government policies? The U.S. soldiers become robots, pawns, slaves, hired professional killers for the United States empire. And if the U.S. has so much freedom, why do so few Americans take strong public stands on important, controversial issues? Many Americans have never once written a letter to the editor on anything really important. Many Americans have never called or written Congress against the evils this empire does routinely, deliberately, every day, all over the world. The many wars that have killed millions. If the U.S. fights for freedom, Why has the U.S. backed dozens of dictators for decades? Dictators who torture, imprison, rob, murder their own people. The U.S. government, FBI, CIA have persecuted and imprisoned many U.S. activists, especially people of color. The main purpose of the U.S. military is not to fight for freedom. Not to fight for freedom. That's not the main purpose of the U.S. military. Don't swallow that bullshit. It's not to fight for human rights in the world and democracy for all people. The main purpose of the U.S. military is to make sure that most people in the United States, most people, but especially the filthy rich at the top, continue to steal and to hog the wealth of the world. I wrote this poem for my beloved Jose, a very attractive bisexual man from Mexico. I met him at the hot springs in Jemez in 1991, and I had sex with Jose over 70 times, more than any other one man in my life. The title is A Healing Pleasure, for the man who makes love with men and whose dad beat his ass when he was a boy. Jose's father beat Jose. To have his ass kissed and licked by me, a man who loves him, is a healing baptism of intense pleasure to the abused spot of pain and humiliation inflicted by an angry man many years before. Slow, man-given healing for a deep, man-made scar. My poem, Hidden Treasures. To certain brown, black, and well-tanned white men, your lean, muscular, sexy physiques are powerful magnets drawing me to you. Why hide your magnificent bodies under shirts and long pants when the sun shines warm? Remove the cloth that obscures your masterpiece, and decades from now, some of you will wish that you still had your youthful bodies to reveal for both men and women to admire and desire. Before cigarettes, booze, hamburgers, ice cream, Cokes, not enough exercise took their tragic toll. No luxury clothes can compare with the beauty of your bodies. I yearn to see your bodies naked, uncaged, unchained, celebrated, set free. My poem, The Whole Man, gay or bisexual. There's much more to a man's body than his cock and his face. Is his physique lean, healthy, much exercised, naturally dark, or well-tanned, not polluted with cigarettes, booze, other drugs? There's much more to a man than his body. Is he honest, humble, masculine, confident, forgiving, full of life, dependable, no bullshit, passionate, not addicted to money and material crap, free of shame and hang-ups about hot sex and deep romance with men? Does he enjoy being naked? Does he have the balls to be openly gay or bisexual everywhere? Is he committed to work for fairness and peace for all people? The whole man, gay or bisexual. After World War II, a Jewish rabbi in Germany said what shocked him more than the terror of the Nazis was the silence of the good people in Germany. Police beatings and murders breed fear, hatred, and revenge toward police. And if we want all police to be safe and to be respected, and if we want to stop police murders and brutality on black people, brown people, all people, we must demand police learn and use nonviolent methods. Train all police in nonviolence. And I urge all police to allow family members or friends of a suspect to help defuse and de-escalate the dangerous situation by phone conversations with that suspect. I urge authorities to stop lying to suspects when questioning them. And my very close friend, just this past Sunday, I think it was, yes, Sunday, had good help from two cops, one black, one brown, here in Albuquerque. They were calm, they were helpful, they were respectful, and just as I damn police brutality, I want to be just as quick to compliment those cops who are fair and decent and treating people right. Maggie Kuhn was the founder of the Gray Panthers, which was a group, age and youth together in action. Maggie died at 89 years old years ago. She was a longtime activist against discrimination, against the Vietnam War. She said, do something outrageous every day. Maggie said mental health for old people requires two things. One, social action. Take a stand, protest, demonstrate, work for change in this world. And two, sex. Maggie Kuhn had many love affairs. In her 70s, she had a love affair with a man in his 20s. And on her tombstone, Maggie wanted these words, "Here lies Maggie Kuhn under the only stone she left unturned." A famous black athlete said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?" I thank Mark and Eddie and Travis very much for helping me dozens of times at the controls, the cameras for this program. And I welcome you. If you see me anywhere and you want to talk, I love to meet people. I appreciate photos, selfies, conversations, questions, personal questions. Stop me. To your health, my fresh piss.
Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone.